Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Radical pro-Palestinian rallies on U.S. college campuses have Jewish students in fear for their safety. As Jews celebrated Passover yesterday, anti-Israel protests reached a fever pitch.
Police arrested dozens of protesters at Yale, while Columbia University canceled in-person classes. CBN News Washington correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us more.
On Columbia's campus, Jewish students endured threats with calls to go back to Poland. Here, a demonstrator points at pro-Israel students while holding a sign that reads, "Al-Qassam's next targets." And a Jewish professor is denied entry to the campus while school officials look on.
I am a professor here. I have every right to be everywhere on campus. You cannot let people that support Hamas on campus and me, a professor, not go on campus. Let me in now.
Meanwhile, other Columbia faculty members joined protesters chanting "Free Palestine" and calling for the school to divest from companies selling weapons to Israel. Demonstrations growing more radical have Jewish students fearing for their safety, leading one rabbi to tell students to stay away because the school can't protect them.
I was there today, and it made me sick hearing the things they were saying and doing. So over this holiday, I kind of just want to try to avoid it as best as I can for my own safety.
Monday, the school went to online classes only as New York Governor Kathy Hochul came to see the situation firsthand.
Students are scared. They're afraid to walk on campus. They don't deserve that. I've never seen a level of protest that is so person to person. It is so visceral. And I'm not calling on everyone. People need to find their humanity. Have the conversations. Talk to each other.
Protests, however, spread to other schools in the Northeast. Monday night at NYU, police clashed with protesters while making arrests as they tore down a tent encampment. At Yale, police arrested 45 students for trespassing as their peers celebrated them as heroes. Pro-Palestinian students at MIT have declared part of their campus a liberated zone. While at Harvard, officials shut down Harvard Yard until Friday to prevent similar protests.
The reaction is simply horror.
Rabbi Moshe Hauer told CBN News it needs to be stopped.
It's been happening in one place after the other at different degrees, and if it's not addressed properly and efficiently, it will continue to grow. If they're doing things which break the law, they should have consequences as defined by the law. But they must have consequences. The answer can't be, "We spoke to them."
Monday, President Biden condemned the anti-Semitic protests while also condemning those he says don't understand what's going on with the Palestinians. Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
You look at the turmoil in America today where Jews are literally fearing for their physical safety, and you go, how in the world did we get here? On the eve of Passover, to have this kind of outbreak is just absolutely incredible to me. But on the protesters' side, do you not understand the history? That the history goes back to a refusal to accept a UN resolution establishing the state of Israel. When the UN recognized Israel, you said, no, we don't recognize Israel. We're going to go to war. And that is the ideological reason behind all of this. I heard a commentator say the other day that the reason Hezbollah is in southern Lebanon is because of the IDF. And I'm going, you're out of your mind. You do not understand the history. After 1948, yes, did Lebanon join with all the other Arab nations and go to war against Israel? Yes. Did they lose that war? Yes. Did they come to peace and live in peace with Israel? They didn't participate in the Six-Day War. They lived in peace up until the PLO was transferred there from Jordan. Jordan kicked them out because they were trying to overthrow the king. They go into southern Lebanon, establish refugee camps, and from those refugee camps start launching attacks against Israel and forced Israel to invade southern Lebanon to stop it. That's the history. That's the accurate history of what's happening. There was no occupation of Gaza before October 7th. Israel had completely withdrawn. Gaza was able to regulate themselves, govern themselves, in that they chose to elect Hamas, and Hamas chose to attack Israel. Why? Because they do not accept the Jewish state. They do not accept international law, and they want to drive Israel into the sea. So when you hear that slogan, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, what's that calling for is a genocide, to kill every single Jew in Israel and to remove Israel from the map. That is what these protesters are supporting. In my view, it's incredible, and how anyone could ever say that they're justified in it, that Israel is some kind of apartheid state, Israel is committing some kind of genocide. It couldn't be further from the truth. If you want to look at apartheid, try to be Jewish in Jordan. Try to be Jewish in Syria. Try to be Jewish in Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Gaza, Ramallah. You can't. If you're Jewish there, they kill you. That's the true genocide. That's the true apartheid state. Well, in other news, an independent review of the UN's Palestinian Relief Agency has found that UNRWA helped radicalize Gazan school children against Israel. And here's the worst news. They used our tax dollars to do it. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. A panel appointed by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres to review UNRWA's neutrality released its report Monday. We're also learning more about Israel's strike against Iran last week. Military experts say the Israeli missile evaded Iran's primary air defense system, sending a powerful message to Tehran. CBN's George Thomas has the latest updates on Israel.
In an apparent blow to Iran's air defense capabilities, new satellite photos suggest Israel hit a radar system in Isfahan without being detected. Iran has deployed multiple Russian-made S-300 air defense systems around air bases and large nuclear facilities. Israel's counterstrike last Friday apparently hit one of these defense batteries near Natanz, close to a major nuclear enrichment facility. Meanwhile, a new report says the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, UNRWA, was pivotal in radicalizing generations of Gazans to hate Israel. An investigation led by the United Nations uncovered social media posts and textbooks that glorified jihad and martyrdom and urged Gazans to commit acts of violence against Israelis.
Some of the content, marginal, but even if marginal, we're right, is problematic. Glorification of jihad, incitation to violence, maps of the current world, not historical maps, not showing the existence of Israel. So many other problematic issues. We've lots of examples.
The UN has put forward 50 recommendations to improve UNRWA's neutrality policies and overcome a culture of political bias.
We have long made clear that there needs to be reforms at UNRWA, and we would welcome the UN making the reforms that former Foreign Minister Colonna made in her report.
However, the report also said that Israel did not provide sufficient proof to back its claim that a large number of UNRWA workers were affiliated with Islamic militant groups. In a separate matter, the U.S., for the first time ever, is considering penalizing a unit inside the Israeli military. The State Department is expected this week to impose sanctions on Israel's Netzah Yehuda, or Judea Forever, a unit of ultra-Orthodox soldiers serving in the IDF and accused of alleged human rights abuses against Palestinians in the West Bank. Israeli leaders have condemned the decision as unfair, especially at a time when Israel is at war. Israeli Defense Minister met with members of the Netzah Yehuda battalion Monday.
If a soldier makes a mistake, we will hold him accountable. This is the responsibility of the military establishment. No one in the world will teach us what are morality and what are norms.
It's been 200 days since the October 7th Hamas attacks. This week, as Jews around the world celebrate Passover, Dozens in Tel Aviv joined families of hostages who still have loved ones inside Gaza.
We are doing this at the Hostages Square to unite together with a saying that we cannot celebrate anything that has to do with freedom when we have hostages in Gaza.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Thank you, George. Well, here in the United States, President Biden marked Earth Day with some new policy initiatives, including federal grants amounting to $7 billion for solar power projects in nearly 1 million low and middle income communities. The president also announced about 2,000 jobs available through the American Climate Corps, a training program for green jobs. The administration is planning to highlight his climate policies throughout Earth Week. Well, as the push for clean energy gains momentum, there are warning signs of unintended consequences. A case in point, the risks that offshore wind farms can pose to coastal communities and marine life. CBN's Brady Carter reports on the potential downsides of this green solution.
About 27 miles off the Atlantic coast here in Virginia Beach, the nation's largest wind farm is currently under construction. Pretty soon, that beautiful view will be overtaken by roughly 200 wind turbines, which is something neighbors tell me Dominion Energy allegedly lied to them about when first pitching the project.
They lied. That's all there is to it. They lied.
Neighbors living close to work along the coastline say they had no idea they would suffer from wind farm construction.
It's literally making us crazy.
This is torture to me. I have been tortured nonstop for 3 weeks or more. I am literally a human tuning fork.
Neighbors say their homes are suffering as well due to cracked foundations.
For about 4 months, we've been experiencing our house shaking, loud noise. We've been woken up at night.
There are going to be frustrations, and that's why we want to have meetings like this for the community to come out and share those frustrations with us and figure out a way to move forward.
Construction will continue for several months, leading up to the assembly of some 200 turbines in the Atlantic. This is one of 6 projects approved by the Biden administration. The U.S. plans to build upwards of 190 wind farms nationwide across every coastline, including plans to build turbines in the Great Lakes.
Add to the top of that, we are really concerned about tourism and property values.
Joe Bourne lives in Sandbridge Beach area and keeps a close eye on this Dominion project. That's because he wants neighbors to know about a similar project proposed for his neighborhood that would stretch to Kitty Hawk, North Carolina.
When you take these offshore, even 27 miles, they are visible. On a clear day, you can see them spinning.
From Maine to South Carolina, the Energy Department has marked off vast areas of open ocean for future offshore wind developments. It plans to bring power generated offshore back to land through major port cities. Virginia Beach would act as the main hub. As the industry booms, it faces significant legal challenges.
Now, it's claimed that no whales are being killed by the activity so far, even though a record number of whales are washing up on shore.
Environmentalist H. Sterling Burnett is with the Heartland Institute, an organization suing federal agencies behind the Virginia offshore wind project for threatening endangered whales.
They want to plant 176 turbines sunk into the earth right in their migration route.
This comes as the East Coast sees a spike in suspicious whale deaths. At least a dozen whales have died on Atlantic coast beaches since November. Dominion Energy maintains its project is not responsible.
I think now's the time to pause and let's look at the impact of this one project before we make certainly any decisions on any further projects.
In Florida, lawmakers passed a bill that bans all future wind turbines offshore and on land within a mile of the coast. The Senate, which sponsored the bill, says it aims to protect wildlife and prevent noise. This comes as Virginia Beach residents express concerns their voices weren't heard during the approval process for the nation's largest wind farm project. Reporting in Virginia Beach, Brody Carter, CBN News.